platform, Emmanuel Fokshaba, guest with us, and the Land Council, Bwenje Dels Diti. Let me start with Bwenje. Good morning and welcome to the big set.
I'm fine, how are you?
Yes,
I want to say hi to the members of the National Revolution for the Restoration of Uganda, of which I'm the president. I want first state that I wish the members of the FDC can have an internal settlement of the conflicts within their party, because as a democratic state, we cannot afford to lose another political party after the constructive death of the DP and the UPC at the hands of the NRM. And I also want to encourage all patriotic Ugandans to read the recent case in the UK, the case of Crane Bank versus the DFCU, where the judges state and show to us the massive levels of corruption, bribery, fraud within the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Uganda, within the Bank of Uganda, and of course within the DFCU. And of course, as you said at the start, I want to thank the interim president of Mali, that is Ibrahim Traore, for his bold words, because as Africans, we cannot continue to travel across the Atlantic Ocean to go and beg for food when we have an abundance of food here. People like Museveni have kept us in poverty, in food insecurity, intentionally.
Okay.
And these are things that have to end.
Okay. Into the conversation later on. Thank you so much. Welcome, Council Bwenje Dels did it. John Turinawe, good morning and welcome to the big set.
Good morning, esteemed listeners and my colleague panelists here. I'm happy to see my friend Pastor former MK movement royalist, my friend Peter Mpaka. I'm happy to see you, my brother. You stated that the president was in Jinja. He was there for the fourth biannual presidential CEO forum, and it's a very good venture. He gets first-hand information from CEOs, their problems, and so many other things. It was successful in my view. They had requested that it becomes quarterly. He said it's too much. It's going to keep biannual, and I think the engagements were good. About the FDC, the same person who is saying that they should disband the Electoral Commission of the FDC has always said they should first disband the one of the NRM. But the one they appointed themselves, members of the FDC, they are not comfortable with them leading the electoral processes. And that tells you the level of mistrust that political actors have within themselves, and especially when it is within a different political party, they will try as much as possible to make it sound as if everything is on fire. But you can see that the political party is calling for the disbandment of its own electoral body. So for me, then it becomes rhetoric that they... I saw her requesting Monica Msenero, the minister, the former minister, now... and she was requesting her that she's taking some small matoke powder to the president. And I mean, if you're telling your excellency, this is what I am making, it is here, you can go and test. Really, it was very bad.
I beg to cut you short. Say just something, just a second. From what he has been saying, I think partly when you look onto the investments, I get surprised where you find that the presidential initiatives, ones that have been supported by the government, are failing out, and people are pushing their personal businesses are actually excelling. Yes. The Toke thing, it is a very big venture. We have plenty of matoke, but how are we adding value? And we entice Ugandans to consume.
Add value, really.
I take these Toke biscuits. They are very nice actually. I've tested them. but we also need to look on to how do we penetrate the community and we make people understand the products we are selling.
Okay.
It's not about producing for the president, but producing for the country.
Okay, Peter Mpaka, welcome to the big set.
Thank you, WestJ. And I must also say that it's good to find John Tornawe here, a certified extremist of sorts. But
you have to be an extremist of something. So
I want to also greet our listeners and also appreciate the management of Cruise FM for always allowing us to be here.
Okay.
I wish you a good cruising.
Thank you so much. Welcome, Peter Mpaka, John Torinawe, Fokshaba Emmanuel, and Council Wenje Dels did it. We're hitting a short bumper. When we come back, it will be a top discussion. Good morning.
It's tough. It's bold. It's real politics. The Big Seat on 91.2 Cruise FM. Great music.
Great music.
Great friends.
Great friends.
Great music, great friends. My name is Wesige Banyaji, and I'm saying good morning to all of you that are tuned in. For the people of Chisoro all the way, Kabare, Senzirombara, Yantonde, Fort Porto, everyone that is locked in, we want to say thank you so much. And the conversation is on up to 11 a.m. My name is Wesige Banyaji, and you can be able to listen online on www.cruisefm.com/stream. And on Cruise TV, it's where we at. Follow, like, comment, give us feedback on our social media handles. With John, what is the problem?
You is a president of a political party. Do you think the political party is extremely insignificant that you cannot mention it? What is the problem?
He's the one the political party per se, but it is an aspiring one.
Oh, okay. Because it's not yet registered by the Electoral Commission.
It is like a pressure group.
Oh, it's a pressure group. All right. I will give you an opportunity to clear the air. But the most important conversation that I want us to talk about this morning is I particularly picked this topic because I felt a big seater out there must be able to know what happens when these countries where coups have happened are saying we shall get together and we shall definitely defend Niger. What is your perspective, John Torinawe, on the aspect of coups? What is the cause of coups? Do they create some kind of hope? Because we saw the celebrations in Ouagadougou after Ibrahim Traore, addressed the summit in Russia, and the Burkinabe are very excited about this new leader. It looks like this is now the new hope. Do we see it moving all the way from West Africa to East Africa? John Torinawe.
Thank you so much. I think before I dwell into my submission, the excitement was largely because they never thought that a young man of 35 in military uniform would articulate so many issues to do with politics, yet he's never been a politician. And they thought maybe this is the man. I don't think it was about him running the country in a very democratic way or other socioeconomic issues. Now, back to coups. A coup, briefly, is a military takeover. There are several reasons why the military can say we are taking over government. Those reasons may be legitimate or illegitimate, but by and large, they are always illegitimate. And they center around greed for power, selfishness, and maybe how the government is being run by those running it. In Africa, it had become a norm. Between 2017 and now, we have had around 17 coups, and only one is outside Africa. Only one is outside the African continent, which was in 2021 in Myanmar. So the rest were here. And in that list, I think Sudan, because the coups, there are successful ones and unsuccessful ones, and some scholars differentiate the two by the time, the longevity the coup leaders stay in office. And for them, they state that if the coup leadership spend more than a week in a government, therefore the coup is successful. So we have had around 17 of them in Sudan here. Only 6 were successful. In Burkina Faso, we were talking about, they have had 10, but 9 successful ones. So they top the list of successful coups in Africa.
We had one in Burundi.
Burundi had 11. But the successful one was, I think there were only 2, if I'm not mistaken. We had around 8 in Nigeria, including that of Abacha. We had around also 10 in Ghana, including the one that outside Kwame Nkrumah, and so many others. But I think the issues largely are about the ideological orientation of the military. And in your intro, you were talking about Thomas Sankara. Thomas Sankara in 1983, he stated that a soldier without political ideology is a potential criminal. And I believe that so many people have failed to realize that these soldiers need a lot of political orientation. And this is something I think the Yoweri Kaguta Museveni has mastered here. Because even if we are talking about coups, I think we should localize them here.
Absolutely.
President Museveni thinks that the biggest welfare you can give the soldier is training, and the second one is training, and the third one is training. You will not hear so many people in the military in uniform complaining about an allowance X, complaining about a trip Y, or complaining about huge salaries. For me, I think that something that another thing that has also brought us to this to this second phase, I can call it second phase of coups, is the civilian popular uprisings. Because if we are dating, because we have Mpaka here, is a senior in those things. If we are 2 people interested in the same girl, and 2 people I am looking at Mpaka is a primary school teacher. I'm giving an example. And I'm a lecturer. Then the girl, Mpaka, is winning the girl. The same girl that I'm interested to.
Yes.
That will give me morale to think that now if this girl has accepted Mpaka, what about me? So there are people in uniform saying, if some 21, 22-year-old girl
in Sudan
can change government, what about us who actually have the means of coercion, have everything it takes to chase away a president? That I think there are some people who are seeing it very fashionable to change government, because they think if they delay, the civilians will take to the streets and they change government, and for them they look ugly. There is another form of coup that we have seen in Africa, and I think we saw it in Zimbabwe, though they denied, but I think General Julius Chiwenga and team almost removed the president and said you can go away.
They literally removed the president.
Yeah, absolutely. In South Africa, being an economic powerhouse here, they kind of sanitized it and wanted it to look like a political party, an ANC-led state, internal organization. But it was also including the military. That's how they chased Jacob Zuma, even without an election, and they brought they brought Ramaphosa. So I think basically the coups in Africa are about politics that have gone wrong. You disagree with someone and you say, let us take it to the streets. The others have gone to the bush. Others are still actually in the bush. We have so many rebel groups around. But I think what entices and encourages the military is because they feel they have everything it takes and they are not partaking in the democratic institutional making of the country, and they feel, what should we do if this country is governed wrongly? We are an organ of the state. Why can't we come and sort things out? And I think it is a barbaric and awkward thing to do, but the medicines are there. In the second hour, maybe we can talk about what can prevent coups, because if we don't, they may come here. We are talking about Burundi in East Africa. They may come here. Briefly, before you let me go, I think even here we have had some kind of unsuccessful attempts before. Actually, for the NRA, there were people who were actually plotting a coup against Museveni even when he was in the bush. Someone is not in the power now, not in the government. I can authoritatively tell you that when he had come from Libya, there were a group of people. One has actually died like 2 months ago. You see, the president did not attend the burial. He's one of the RO 27 among the 27, and he was buried around here in Baharwe. Him and other three had
but the president not barring has nothing to do with what they thought of that leader, because we know President Museveni did bury Tumwine. He did not bury Pelkos Kutesa. He did not bury so many of his comrades. Unless
your definition for burying is different. He buried Tumwine because he was at Kololo. Tumwine was given a ceremonial a state funeral. He attended. He came by himself. So he buried. So for you, burying means reaching at the grave. That is your burying. But the man buried. Now, what I'm telling you,
yes,
is that they had conspired to take him out of action, the president himself. Then one of his inner circle, who was actually a junior two is an equivalent of a warrant of Sanao, told him. So when he told him, yes, but they had ranks. When he told him, and this is a person outside government, when he told him, he called a meeting, the group, the meeting of top leadership, including the Jim Huezis and others, and he mentioned the people who were plotting this, and he said, I have forgiven you, but please, just to know that I'm watching over you. So these guys said, who could have given him this information? And they went and killed that man who gave the president information. So these barbaric acts of saying, now that you have defeated me here, you have defeated me in an election, I must take power, irrespective of whether it is constitutional or not, has to be. We have to find a remedy for it.
Okay. Perhaps let me go to Fokshaba here. The matter of the ideological orientation of the soldiers, because by and large, we've known, for example, here in Uganda, it's about the big man syndrome. The military will definitely have some discipline because they know Museveni is still the general, and the commander-in-chief of the land forces, the armed forces. We're not sure whether they would act the same if it was any other leader. What do you read of the coups, especially with regards to how the military is structured? Because we've seen that majority of the coups are led by junior officers, not the generals. How do you read of this way of taking over government by junior officers? Is it out of this being frustrated within the military? What do you think could be the cause?
Okay, thank you so much, our host today. Before I dig deep into this issue, I think I also want to first refer to the history that we have seen. Because when you talk about the coup d'etats in Africa, I think it has happened to be like a norm from the time, actually for the entire of the post-colonial era, referring, let's say, starting from around 1950s, we have seen these trends happening. And trying to bring them down here, you find that even after independence here in Uganda, the Kabaka had also to be squeezed to exit, and then there comes in another person. And other subsequent coups that we saw, including one of Amin that actually happened in early 1990s, rather 70s, up to 79 actually, which was a very big battle. But all these have actually created a very big vacuum that even those that don't become successful, they end up going back to the bush also to keep planning on their way back so they can come and take over. And again, we are now seeing another trend of attempts to overthrow the governments, actually from the civilians, as we've seen the Arab Springs coming up, and very many countries actually were taken over, but of course with support from, let's say, from the military. So when the civilians come on board, then you find that even the commander-in-chief cannot command the military to calm down the situation. Instead, the military ends up sidelining with the civilians, and at the end of the day, they overthrow the government. So for me, I think we have to learn a lot from all this that is actually happening, because all the countries in Africa are embedded in a very big umbrella, which is the African Union, that we all fall in, but with our regional integrations, East African Community, SADC, ECOWAS, we have seen them, they have been here. But they are proving maybe to be like a barking dog that cannot bite. Because I'm just imagining a country, let's say like East Africa actually here, where we even saw those overthrows coming up, but all this was resulting from heads of state not respecting the clauses within their integrations. For example, if you can look at, let's say, Idi Amin Dada, to the extent that even when other countries are coming to take over also from him, they also had to make alliances with other countries within the same region, East African Community. So for me, I'm looking at that loophole that even our umbrellas are not doing so much enough to
you think because African Union is not doing, but now we saw a declaration by ECOWAS.
Yes.
Saying all that is happening in Niger will be countered by ECOWAS. And I know for sure Nigeria has moved forward to act about it. In fact, President Tinubu is organizing a couple of troops to go and create stability in Niger and reinstall the president.
Let me tell you, when you refer back to the coup that actually happened in, I think it was in Ivory Coast, some years back, around 1950s, the president of Tanzania, actually Julius Nyerere, had to write to the UN to take over in a way that they should sideline the country, in a way that it can feel those sanctions. But all those are written policies, declaration statements that cannot even be implemented due to the fact that we do not have like a structured, let's say, army that can as well support. We do not have that. Even if it was, let's say, like rebel attacking, our ways of, let's say, supporting our neighbors have also been down. But we also need to draw it back. What are those reasons that lead to the, let's say, to the outbreak of such coups that happen?
All right. Let's stop for a break. When we come back, move the conversation. Don't forget to give us your feedback on our social media handles. And later, you have a chance to join in on 752-912-912, Don't touch your radio.
It's tough. It's bold. It's real politics. The Big Seat on 91.2 Cruise FM. Great music music,
music,
great friends.
great friends.
The Big Seat on 91.2 Cruise FM. Great music,
great friends.
great friends.
We are back. It's a few minutes. It's 15 minutes to the top of the hour here on Western Uganda's biggest radio station, 91.2 Cruise FM. Great music, great friends. The Big City is on. My name is Wesige Banyaji. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the moment has definitely arrived. The call was made, numbers registered, and the battles ranged. Cheers and tears have been witnessed, and now we're drawn to 4 for Kafulu Abwino. Every beautiful story comes to an end, and this Sunday, brace yourselves for the finals, who will be crowned the Kafulu Abwino Season 1 2023. Could it be Agaba Stewart, Kaoya Julius, Nkwanga Faz, Basinga Bylan? Join in on Sunday at 3 p.m. for an unforgettable experience, powered by definitely Western Uganda's biggest radio station. Don't miss for a second of the action. Kafulu Abwino finals are on this Sunday, 3 p.m. So take yourself in and make sure you follow through. It's been a fantastic campaign, and I'm very sure all of us that have been a part of it have enjoyed it in a way. I have Fox Shaba Emma with me in studio, Council Wenje Daus Didi, John Tornawa, and Peter Mpaka. Yes, Fox Shaba.
Yes, you had actually we were asking why is it that all these are almost being led by junior leaders or military officers. The truth of the matter is the way how the military things are structured. Most of the times you find that the people who are on the front line are not the designers of what actually they are not the vision bearers. So it means that at the end of the day, there are other people who are coming in to be like, you move, we shall support. And then you see I don't know these ranks very well, but you'll find these people on the front line carrying guns, doing everything. But
maybe because the generals are literally part of the system that runs
of
government. They would not be enticed to take over.
Let me tell you something. They also know that if these ones are not safe, then they are also not safe. Because these people also have guns, they have all it takes even to attack the generals. So at the end by the time it reaches at that point, you find that even the military is already divided, the government is divided, there are people who are willing to dine with, let's say, with the few, and there are others who are actually willing to sideline with the disgruntled ones. And at the end of that day, it breaks.
You are asking why the junior or the junior ones. some of the reasons, actually, in some countries, before coups happen, there is mutiny. And mutiny means the soldiers are saying it's like doctors calling for industrial action.
Yeah.
And most of the grievances that they are putting across are related to personal financial welfare. And you realize that the person being affected most is a low cadre, because sometimes in the pay of those soldiers, the general ones are paid very well. The low cadres are paid peanuts. So these ones kind of say, no, we have to do something for ourselves. We are the majority. We have to do something, and then that means that command and control is impossible. You cannot then enforce certain orders onto these people who are mutinying. It becomes absolutely impossible. What then happens is that they declare that we have taken government because they are majority. They are almost everywhere. They are the ones guarding the president. It is not the general that is guarding the president anyway. So it is easier for them to run to the national broadcaster and declare that we have taken over government.
Okay, thank you, John. Council Bwenje, you know,
Yes,
all the time that you come here, you, in a way, say, talk about the UPDF and how General Muhoozi is running the UPDF and how President Museveni take the UPDF as personal property. But want to understand what motivates the military to say no, enough is enough. Is it the status quo? Is it the state of affairs in a nation that creates these coups? And because in Uganda here, even when the UPDF has been in charge of the security of our country, we've not had any threat. But we saw people like General Tinyefunza. We had a couple of generals, Kanyangore here, Mzora, people that had issues with the president, but did not go ahead to cause coups in this country.
Yeah,
What is so synonymous with coups in those countries that is not happening here, even when we are dealing with the same factors?
As a matter of fact, I want to speak as a lawyer. See, a coup d'etat
Is a coup illegal?
That's what I want to ask and answer.
Yes.
A coup d'etat is a sudden or abrupt change of government by force, and it must come from within the internal structures of the ruling government. Now, the first recorded coup in the history of the world occurred in the Kingdom of Israel in 876 BC. Now, in Africa, the first one was in Ethiopia in 1916. But the first one in independent Africa was in what is now called the DRC in 1960. But from 1950 up to 2010, those are 60 years, right? The majority of coups in the world have been in Africa. Actually, 36% of them in Africa, in the Americas, in Asia, in the Middle East, and then the fewest in the EU. So there's a reason why they have occurred in Africa the most. And of course, we all know that Africa is the poorest continent, the most peaceless continent, and I want to, of course, emphatically state that by law, a coup d'etat is not unconstitutional and it's not illegal. Because every one of us is born with a revolutionary right to remove a bad government. Now, like this one of Museveni. And of course, I would support people like Dr. Besje.
But if at all that's what you are alluding
General
to,
Shamuntu,
then those that lead
to make a coup.
Council Wenje, for those that lead coups that
Yes.
are unsuccessful,
Yes.
actually charged and incarcerated.
That's what I'm saying. I'm coming there.
Yes.
So, of course, we should not forget that people like Dr. Besje and General Shamuntu are still members of the UPDF. Because under the UPDF Act, a retired soldier is a member of the reserve force. A reserve force is a section of the UPDF. So I kind of actually invite them to think about a coup Yeah, what especially because of the fact that in Uganda we have a dichotomy between the UPDF, a very weak army, and then the SFC, which is an ethnic army but a very strong one. And of course, it is a characteristic of authoritarian governments to have ethnic armies. And why they do that is to protect themselves from coups, because there is a thinking that if you have a member of your family who is in charge of your security, the risk of a coup is low. And of course, as I said at the start, a coup d'etat has advantages and disadvantages. One of them is that it can help to end a civil war, and of course another one is that it can also contribute to the democratization of a state, because a bad leader can be dealt away, and then a new civilian head of government and state can come in. So a coup.
Are we seen any country where the military does a coup d'etat and installs a civilian president?
Yes, it happened in actually in the first coup in Africa in 1960. I think it was Corporal Mobutu. He removed the government of the day and inserted a government led by President Kasavubu. So, and what you're talking about is what you call a democratic coup. A coup which leads to a civilian government in power. So, of course, even under our own constitution, a coup d'etat is allowed under the 3rd article of our constitution. You and I and them have a right to remove the prevailing government of the day by force of arms. Okay, so it is like the offense of attempted suicide under section 210 of the Penal Code. Attempted suicide is an offense, but suicide itself is not an offense. So
it is not an offense because there is no one to hold culpable.
Exactly. Are they going to charge the person successfully killed himself or herself?
It's a good analogy.
So when you remove the government of the day by force and you succeed, there's nothing wrong with that. But when you fail in an attempted coup, now that's where the offense is in terms of treason, which is whose maximum penalty is death. Am I protected? I think he has spoken for a long time.
Yes,
I'm spoken. I mean, I'm protected.
And I think our people there, we have students who are listening to us, and they are lost. One thing.
Yes. Am I protected?
Let's him.
Let him make an interjection later.
Okay. But it would be prudent for John. It would be prudent for John to get a piece of paper and a pen.
He has spoken for
Okay, John.
Not say that we are on a political talk show and it's like a Catholic mass. That when someone says anything,
no, you have to wait. I think the rules of a
It's tough, it's bold, it's real politics. The Big Seat, 91.2 Cruise FM. Great music, great friends.
Great friends.
politics. The Big Seat on 91.2 Cruise FM. Great music,
Great music.
great friends.
Great friends.
We are back. We are back. It's 2 minutes past 10 o'clock here on Western Uganda's biggest radio station, 91.2 Cruise FM. Great music, great friends. My name is Wesige Banyaji. It's hot in here, man. And the reason is on Article 3 of the Constitution, whether if a person or a group of persons take over the state and establish a new government or a new state, they are legitimate and cannot be charged within the law. And Council Weje is saying if you succeed, then you can be able to get away with it. And John is saying there is no article of the Constitution that can give power to any group of people or persons to definitely overthrow the state. John, let me give John an opportunity to allude to Article 3, and I will give you, Council, an opportunity to rebut that.
You see, so many people do not understand the difference between a government and the state.
In Uganda, it's not there.
It is. There is a difference, a huge difference.
Why?
And so many people at the same time do not understand.
Let's.
And so many people in Nyankore, there are 3 things that look the sound the same, but they are not the same.
Let me say this.
Let me speak them actually in
I'm going to give you an opportunity,
so that some people should understand. There are 3 things that sound alike but are not the same. Obwenje, okumanya, okwetegereza. Those are 3. They are typically different. There are some people actually
let's go
who
back
have one of the 3 and they don't have that now.
It's not a personal attack on me.
It's not.
It's not a personal attack on anybody.
Right?
Okay, please.
Now, a government and the state, there are organs of the state. We know who forms government. We also know that there are governments actually that don't have. If we talk about a failed state, what are you alluding to? But we also have countries like Luxembourg that don't have a national army. Are you saying that therefore they don't have a state? So what I was informing Wenje was that there is no law that can empower an organ of the state to remove the state. It cannot happen. What he was alluding to was an uprising, maybe a rebellion, which and even in the constitution in Article 3, even in Article 3, they are well spelled out. If the people, they have not said because in the same constitution there is the provision of the UPDF. And their roles and their duties and their formation. They have not said that the UPDF at leisure, depending on the circumstances and what the wrongs that the precurrent government is doing, they are at leisure to remove the state. That one is not there. I am saying his article, as he reads it verbatim, can give power to people to organize themselves and remove a bad government. That is okay. To people get arms, wage a guerrilla war against the state like Museveni did. Museveni did not do a coup. A coup is only done by
I think your information has been
an organ of the state which is internal.
I understand the distinction between a coup and a revolution or a rebellion. A coup is internal, sparked off by a very small band of people, okay, who have planned for it for some time.
But Council Bwenje,
now
we read Article 3 verbatim, and it's absolutely not backing your argument.
No. You did not read sub-Article 4 of that. 4 says. 4 says. This is clause 4 of Article 3 of the Constitution. All citizens of Uganda shall have the right and duty at all times to defend this Constitution, and in particular to resist any person or group of persons seeking to overthrow the established constitutional order. Therefore, if I think that the government of the day is trying to abrogate the constitution, I have every right under this provision to remove that government by force of arms, whether in a coup or in a revolution. Okay? And of course, he said that in Uganda, there's a difference between a state and government. No. In Uganda, it's a fusion. The state, you see, when you read Article 98(1) of the Constitution, the president is the head of state and government. So this Prime Minister Nabanja
but you see,
has nothing.
Heading government and the state is possible, but there is definitely a distinction between government and the state.
In Uganda, okay, by law, it is there on paper, but practically, really, it is not there because Uganda is a fusion of the state, the government, the NRM, and M7. It is all 4 in 1.
Oh, okay.
So
get to the microphone, Peter Mpaka.
So I want to emphatically state that the people of Uganda, just like M7 did when he removed General Tito Okello in a coup. It was a coup because the two of them were almost in the same government because of the agreement in Nairobi. So it is a coup. So President Museveni is a product of a coup himself. So I want to state that that every one of us at any one single time, when you feel and you have evidence that the government of the day is not acting as per the constitution, as the Museveni government is doing now, I, you, him, we all have a right to stand up.
Okay, Council Bwende, thank you very much. Peter Mpaka.
And of course, I want to say that what I'm saying here is not in a vacuum. It is backed by law.
Okay.
In Uganda, we have the famous case of Uganda versus Commission of Prisons expert Michael Matov. It's a 1966 case decided by the High Court of Uganda, and no court has ever overruled that decision up to now.
Right.
So it means that a forceful removal of government, not by the ballot but by the force of arms, is constitutional and legal.
Okay, Peter Mpaka. In 1986, when the NRA was walking on the streets of Kampala to take over the state and government, by and large, Ugandans were excited about this guerrilla movement, and they really supported it in that Welo Triangle because this was a people's revolution. We are seeing it in other countries where the citizens actually go ahead and celebrate with the military overthrowing the state and creating a new establishment. Where is the diversion? Because between 1986 and now, there is a new chorus. We are seeing Ibrahim Traore being celebrated in Ouagadougou. And 10, 15 years down the road, it will be a different story altogether. What creates that difference?
Thank you, SJ. I think the most worst thing that happened to Africa was colonization. Because these Europeans brought us a template to use in the education system, in the governance, in the politics. And I think Africans have never mastered what these Bazungu gave us. And that's the biggest problem. For example, there is a mantra that civilian governments are the best and military rule is the worst. And whenever we have these gunmen taking over, we should always force and make sure that we have civilian rule, which does not seem even to be working when you look at the big picture. So, to the question that you have asked me, every coup that has happened, WSG and our dear listeners, I want to say that it has been positively welcomed by the masses, even in the past. Why? Because these people, the coup leaders, are removing unpopular leaders. They are removing people who have ruled badly the society. They are removing people who have been governing with iron fists, people who have killed infrastructure, who have superintended over dire social welfare circumstances within their countries. So for me, I would like to say that it is very important that if the people are seeing characteristics of bad governance, then they should rise up. I don't see why John is trying to put us in a corner, that there is no article that allows us and confuse Ugandans. Me, I want to you called on Dr. Besije and Muntu. Me, I would want to call on all forces of change, all forces, including Bobby Wine, that please, if we are seeing bad governance, we should save ourselves from these bad governors. Why should we have a family that has captured the whole country? Why should we have a small group of people that have captured the whole country and no one is turning to the left
after
and to the right?
After 1 month?
You want to use the
No, after 1 month,
Yes.
I see
You
bad
see-
governance in you and
Yes, organize again, reorganize. You also reorganize.
You also after 2
You
months.
see the
you
problem
did the
I've
same.
said.
You remove.
You see, John, you should understand what I said. I said that the problem we have here in Africa, the problem we have here in Africa is that we have a template of governance that we have failed to master. I think Africa should have been left to its own original way of doing things, whether it was informal or formal. Because who tells
Whoever is
you?
not satisfied, it takes over.
Yes, because me, I want to tell you. Me, I want to tell you
Survival
this.
of the fittest.
If there, if even President Museveni today, if he was the one being governed, I'm sure that he would have organized the coup against who is leading,
But
so
he
that
did
he
that
tries to
already in
bring.
1985.
Actually, he already did it.
In
And
1985.
every election we have in Uganda is a coup, because you have a presidential candidate who is being shot at, you have a presidential candidate who is not being allowed to campaign,
But that-
you have
but-
you have political
but-
parties
but that's
which
not-
are not even allowed to
that's not
participate
why.
as
But that's
political
not a
parties.
definition
Those
of
are
what a coup
coups.
is.
Those are coups, because one is using arms against the others.
There's what we call
Speak to the microphone,
there's
Council.
what we call there's what we call a self coup. You ascend to power by law, and you refuse to leave power.
Yes.
Okay, that's it's an automatic coup.
Then
You
how
cannot have a
automatic is it when there is
pronouncement,
no
you cannot have a
overthrow
push.
of an establishment?
Uh.
How self-coup then? What does that mean, if at all? No one has taken over me.
No, you have removed yourself and brought yourself back.
So you see,
Your term has ended.
the
and-
challenge.
See, when your term ends,
Yes.
and you amend the constitution, and you come back as the beneficiary of the amendment, that is an auto coup.
So
see, but-
since September 2017,
Yes.
Museveni has been doing coups
You
across.
see,
No,
Banyaji,
actually, since 2001.
Banyaji, I think
Actually, even
the,
since 1985.
the problem here is we are, as Ugandans, we are a lazy country. We are very lazy citizens. The problem is, and the emotions flaring here, is not about the topic. It is because the topic has become so hard for some people, and they have created their own.
Yes.
Don't
Don't vulgarize, John.
Mpaka, you are saying.
Okay, let's have order.
Mpaka is saying
Yes.
that if you beat up an opponent, it is a coup.
No,
And we
absolutely.
have allowed.
No, we cannot allow that
We
to
have
pass.
allowed because that's what I'm saying. And he is saying, no problem, no problem. But you are, that's what.
But perhaps I need to give
Now,
you the-
Wenje says
think
Yes.
that if you change, if you amend the constitution, that is a coup. That is, and he wants us to allow, and we have allowed, because forcefully he says you must allow. I am saying, I'm the lawyer. So we have allowed. Amending the constitution is a coup, no problem. So the problem here is because some people have come here, and I must state it, and I'm not vulgarizing anything. People have not, they have not accustomed themselves to what coups really mean, because they have enjoyed for the last 40 years. They have never seen a coup in Uganda.
Yes.
They only read it on Al Jazeera and BBC.
Yes.
So these ones, they are right to keep wiggling around left, right, and center. They are not making any formidable statements. It is understandable. Wenje, it is understandable. You have never seen a coup. The reason you are moving from here to there, to you see the family, to see SFC and UPDF. SFC is a unit, a special unit it under the UPDF. When someone says this one is more, this one
no. But you see what Council Wendy alluded to. He said the reason why they create a stronger SFC within the UPDF it is to avoid.
But let me ask you, what do you call stronger SFC? Do you want to tell you that Moi is not a strong specialized motorized infantry battalion? Do you want to tell me that field artillery is not a strong? Can you attack? Do you want to tell me that CAA? Let me tell you. Do you want to tell me that Air Force is not a strong force here? The making of the branding of SFC by some people is legitimate. You cannot have a president that has no a special. Which country in the world? Anywhere. Is it Britain? Is it Germany? Is it UK? Is it France? Which country doesn't have a special elite force? Does that mean then that elite force is bigger and a creation in courts outside the normal army? It's not there. So the wiggling here is because some people, first of all, did not came here and prepared. They came from their bars, came here to come and disorganize everything.
I think let's allow Emma. Let's allow Emma.
I have my point of view.
Okay.
A short one.
Yes.
He's talking about.
Speak to the microphone, sir.
He's talking about the SFC. Which law provides for the SFC? It's not in the UPDF Act. It is illegal.
Which law?
It's a personal army. Actually, it's a mercenary force of the president and his son.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Perhaps you need to tell us what Moi is, so that we know.
Motorized different. Which law talks about mountain division that is in Kasese?
It is
no, but they are under the land forces.
No,
which is a formal division.
Even Special Forces Command is under. We have only three departments of the forces. Let me tell you, we have the Air Force, Reserve Force, and Land Force. The SFC is under land forces. Full stop.
Okay.
So I think borrowing just smallly from what they've been arguing about the SFC and what, there is no country or no president actually who has not actually created a special force specifically to protect the interests of the government. Why does it come like that? Let me first finish up.
But we also know that all coups are led by presidential guards.
Let me come to that point where I deviate from what Councillor Gwenje talked about. He's making it let's say bringing in the element of ethnicity, and which I think it is not right to say that it is for Banyankore. The reason being only that we are all human beings. If you find you have a biological attachment to someone, then there is more room for protection compared to having an external person far away from above. But it doesn't mean that it is composed of Banyankore alone. It is a general force that at least all people are represented. I'm not speaking on behalf of the government or let's say by the UPF, but I'm trying to clarify that we should not really bring in the element of ethnicity. It is more catastrophic. Then if I come from that end, we look at these coups, let's say, happening. But where does it leave the other sections when it comes to development? I'm speaking as a social worker, but I also want us to understand that all these coups compromise economic, let's say, the social development when it comes to progress of the country due to violence, because there is a lot of commerce that is compromised and destroyed, infrastructure broken down. It takes us back to zero.
Okay, thank you, Emma. When we stop up for a break, when we come back to the lifeline of the show, I'll be able to open the lines and read all the messages that you've sent on social media. Don't touch your dial.
It's tough, it's bold, it's real politics. The Big Seat on 91.2 Cruise FM. Great music.
Great music.
Great friends.
Great friends. Hello?
It's time. The Big Seat on 91.2 Cruise FM. Great music,
Great music.
great friends.
Great friends.
We are back in 32 minutes past 10 o'clock on Western Ughanda's biggest radio station, 91.2 Cruise FM. Great music, great friends. My name is Wesige Banyaji. The Big Seat is definitely on your radio. And on social media, Facebook, Robert Babiha, you're saying you're streaming again from Abu Dhabi. It is, and the question is about the coups, what they speak of the good governance and democracy in Africa. You're saying it is time for Africa to take control and protect its resources. Matthias Major, you're saying the fact that power in many African countries is in the hands of those who have actually changed democracy to monarchism, and this is due to the weaknesses in the electoral commission that allows many of the opposition parties to lack meaning in every country. However, the militants are also human beings. They also face the oppression of their superiors, thus forcing them to change their minds and get rid of the superiors. Derek Aine Tarema, you're saying, I think Uganda we are also under military rule. I don't see the big difference between Uganda and the mentioned countries. The reason is that some of the people are tired of the African presidents who rule them until death. Thank you for that. Barije Aloysius, you're saying it is good for dictators who rule for many years, and you're listening again from Mary Hill. Ivan Palvop, you're thanking us for the show, and you're saying the question is simple. If that coup happens in Uganda, can we be surprised? How many years has Museveni been in the presidency? Military coups happen due to prolonged regimes. How can many African countries have either age limits or term limits? People are tired. And Wamanya Edson, you're listening again from Kakova, and you're saying, I think these coups are sponsored by the Western world. Omkama Andrew, you're listening again from Omkashenda. Mwebesa Dixons, you're in Kasaga Mariantonde, and you're saying, I think nothing they are contributing towards the growth of good governance or democracy. Ian Martinelli, I see you're listening again from Kakova and Nasasila Pfizer. Call us right now on 752-912-912 and 780-912-910. The Big Set.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. What's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Derek Ashimwe from the Morning Addiction and the Sports Department at Cruise FM.
Yes, Derek Ashimwe.
Thank you, Mr. Banyaji, for the show. It has been an enjoyable one. And my contribution to the show is, as much as we want to look at the democracy in these African countries and the coups, I feel like we are looking at the smaller fish and leaving the bigger fish. In my opinion, the bigger fish is foreign interference. And if you look at the Sahel region, countries consisting of Niger itself, you look at Burkina Faso, you look at Mali and Chad, they've had a combined 10 coups since the year 2000. It is no coincidence that 4 countries in the Sahel region have had 10 coups since the year 2000. And the one thing that has stood out for me in this spectacle is that all those countries I mentioned, after the coup takes place, the citizens are turning on the French, the colonizers. They are all gravitating towards Russia and Putin. I feel like that is where we should look rather than just the democracy. Why are all these people turning towards Russia or the East rather than the West? I feel like that, for me, is the biggest thing. And of course, it doesn't help that Putin has given them free rein and is trying to consolidate that power, having lost grip of the West. So personally, I feel like we should look at foreign interference more than anything. And I will leave you with a quote. There's an artist called Sting. I'm a very big fan of his. He had a song in the 80s called Russians. And on that song, he said, there is no monopoly on common sense on either side of the political fence. We share the same biology regardless of ideology. So at the end of the day, we should remember we are all Africans. We are all people. Despite the ideologies that differ, we have one common goal, which is to move our continent and countries forward. Thank you for the show.
Thank you so much, Derek Ashime, for that contribution. The Big Set.
Cruise FM.
Yes, good morning.
You're talking to Ariata Bonivent from Shema.
Yes, yes, please.
Westige Banyaji, thanks for the program and the panelists.
Yes, thank you so much.
I'm of the view that I think Putin has opened the eyes of an African boy because he has instilled the brains, and the African boy has seen how the Western world has been steering this world.
Oh, okay. Thank you. The big set.
Wesige Banyadi.
Yes, good morning.
Ognuwa mweta Jordan Morata ayemereye champo shen. Nani wesige Banyadi singa na tujandre. Okamo Africa tutawam. Abo kuba wizo mwe no murugo butegechi. Kamo wizo mwe ne ekako bagenderi. Na dar kuzaho na bona no wane bishan. Abo kuba twara bomu Uganda ko kwabiro okuganisha ngemerire. Noreba yabirazaho adargaho bona akabandishana kandi bigoma ka celebratinga bigoma yarga. Okora abantu bashemerirwe ngo bote yargaho ingiza nini usanga nini bize yakora nayo batarukunda. Katijotero nawe tubamukunda. Obota tigarko abantu mbazagul. Nero kamba tukawo kandi mugirizo warunzi.
All right, thank you. The big set.
Yes, good morning.
Turn down the volume of that radio.
Yes.
What's your name and where are you calling from?
This is Qatar.
Yes, Qatar.
So what I see on this military coup, because you see people always will come the military, see when they come to power, people always will come. You see in our country, Uganda, the Steve Idi Amin Dada, and the people were happy to receive. So there is no way how we can fight military coup. We shall always receive when they want to come to fight.
I've gotten the point there. The big set. Just lost that call on 752-912-912-178-0912-910. Alvaro Bruno on Twitter, you're saying always African leaders think they are ruling their homes. So they always get paid by what they did. You're listening in from Rwampara. And Mp Ruhanga, you're saying in Africa there is no democracy at all. And keep those messages coming. Let's keep the conversation on our social media handles. 91.2 Cruise FM on Facebook and in Twitter. It's all there. I'll be able to read some of those messages. The big set.
Hello.
Yes, good morning.
Morning. This is Roger from Nyarchika, Ibanda.
Yes, Roger in Ibanda.
I'm now in Kazo. I think these coups are sponsored and organized by Western countries who always want to disorganize Africans, and I think those countries are hiding something. They want to steal Africans. Good morning.
Just on point. The big set. We just lost that call on 752-912-912 and 780-912-910. Call in and let your opinion be put on record on what you think about the coups on the African continent. The big set.
Hello, Cruise FM.
Yes, good morning.
Thank you for the program, Mr. Banyagi.
Thank you for listening, then.
This is Andrew Vinomgisa from Rubinde, Sozi.
Yes, please.
I think I would like to thank Mr. Johnson Nawe for battling with those men. Really, John, you are a giant. And you have them because there is no any article that is in the laws of Uganda that allows schools from throwing away of a governing state. Thank you for your...
Thank you so much. And Banini Dixon, you're listening in from Roharo. I want to appreciate you so much. Let's kick up. We shall be right back.
It's 10:30 a.m. Your local time check.
Oh no, yes, sports. Bueno. Oh no, yes.
The Big Seat on 91.2 Cruise FM. Great music.
Great music.
Great friends.
Great friends.
on the final lap of the show. Thank you so much for those that have made contribution on our social media, and for those that made the calls through. We want to appreciate you very much. Now I have a message for you, ladies and gentlemen. The moment has arrived, the call was made, numbers registered, and battles arranged. Cheers and tears have been witnessed, and now down to 4 for Kafulu Wabwino. Every beautiful story comes to an end. Now this Sunday, brace yourselves for the finals. Who will be crowned Kafulu Wabwino Season 1 2023? Could it be Agaba Stewart, Kawaya Julius, Gwanga Fuzz, or Basinga Bylan? Join in on Sunday, 3 p.m. for an unforgettable experience. All that is powered by Western Uganda's biggest radio station. 91.2 Cruise FM is what we are. John Turinawe, Peter Mpaka, Fokshaba Emma, and Council Bwenje Daus did it. We're literally wrapping it up in a few. The matter that has been raised by the callers, the foreign hand, the invisible hand of the West. Let me start from here.
No, that is a fallacy because, as I stated,
no, but we saw.
As I stated,
we saw Idi Amin was supported by the Israelis.
Yes. But I said a first coup in Africa was in 1916 in Ethiopia. It was not instigated or engineered by any foreign power. It was the native people of Ethiopia. But of course, the second one in 1960 had a hand, of course, with the CIA and the UN. So it is half true and half wrong. Okay, but it doesn't mean that a native African has no knowledge of independence. Every one of us, as I stated alone, is born with the freedom of conscience, with the revolutionary right in herself or in himself to remove any bad order of the day. So whether the Western powers are there or not, every one of us is born with the knowledge to distinguish between good and bad governance. And I want to say that that under the Constitution, any decision which is made by a court, a court of record, High Court and above, and it has not been overruled, whether it was made in 1920 or what, it is still good law. So the case of ex parte Matov, which decided that a forceful, unprecedented or unforeseen change of order, as long as it is successful, is the prevailing order of the day. The court can question the validity of the government, of the Constitution, but of course it cannot question the validity of the government of the day. But as long as a government or a new order comes into power by force of arms and it is successful, that is the order of the day, and we are all mandated to respect it.
All right.
And of course, it is it comes from the theory of Hans Kelsen, the Hans Kelsen general theory of law and the state. And it was, of course, supplied in Pakistan in 1958 in the case of State versus Dosso. What even in the United States Constitution, when you read the Second Amendment, it provides that the Americans, each American has a right to own a gun. Why? Because they foresee that there might come a need to remove the government of the day by force of arms. That is entrenched in the U.S. Constitution. And of course, as was, of course, interpreted and in the case of Marbury v. Madison. So governments all over the world, recognize that even if removal of government by force is it is uncontemplated or unforeseen or unexpected, but where there is a coup, and the coup means an unexpected achievement, where there is a new government by whatever means, and by whomever, and it is in control of government, it is the government of the day, and it has removed the previous order.
Okay, thank you.
You cannot raise the issue, there's no election. No, where an election has failed to remove the government of the day because of corruption, bribery, and so forth, then people, like in Uganda, have the right to rise up under the third article of the Constitution and remove the government of Museveni.
Okay, thank you. Mushabi Olsen, you're saying you're watching, you're streaming on Chris TV at Must. Thank you. Mohimbise Alan, you Bachinyens, and you're streaming in from Chiruhura. Darren Asher, you're in Kashanyadaze. I know Shamaiko, you're in Muyenga, Kampala, and you're thanking us for the show. Mohenda Patrick, you're in Kungu, you're watching live. And there's so many of you that are caught up on Cruise TV. We want to thank you so much. Let me go to Peter Mpaka here. The hand of the West. We've seen it's unprecedented. For example, in the UK Africa Summit, to have an African leader go in army fatigue and camouflage in any of the Western capital. We saw it in St. Petersburg, where Captain Traore went and, in fatigue and welcomed by President Putin, and we saw what happened. What does this read of the support of the coup d'etats by the West, Peter?
No, I partly agree, but I do not take it wholesomely. Because for me, I want to maintain the same line with Council Wenje, that the causes of coups is bad governance and the failure of systems failing to deliver services that the people deserve. But of course, like you've said, we've seen coups in these countries which are supported by basically Russia. We've seen that. But for me, I still want to insist that the bad governance is the main issue. And as long as people are not satisfied with the system they are seeing, I still also want to still call upon them. This week I was listening to one of the leaders here in Imbara City, and the discussion was on Victor Bwana Road. And the leader himself was calling people. He said they have gone to Kampala, they have gone to the IGG, they have gone to every office, but they are failing with the contractor, this man called Multiplex, the company. They are not delivering the road. And the man was saying, please, people of Victor Bwana and people of Mbarara, arise and fight for your rights, fight for your businesses. So if people arise and demand for that service, and the road is now worked on, for us we will have made an achievement. So in the same way, in the line of these coups, if people are discontented with what is happening in the country, I don't want us to say that we need to hire Bachuba, we need to hire mercenaries to come and help us. We the people have a right, we have the power. As Article 1 of the Constitution says, these are the days that we should exercise our power and remove a government that is not serving the interests of its people.
Thank you, Peter Mpaka. John Turinawe, the hand of the West. Do we see an influence of Russia and all the other countries in creating a new kind of establishment in Africa where they will pick on the military and some individuals within to create a new establishment within those countries?
Thank you so much. I want to inform our listeners that first of all, there was no coup in Ethiopia in 1916. The battle of Segale that is being brought forward here by some people who don't know Africa was Segale.
I have a name. You have to mention me.
Was a state just 40
that's very important.
40 miles from Addis Ababa.
We have to respect us.
The 1916 battle of Segale was about Empress Zaudit and the royalists to Liege that resulted in the ultimate victory of Zaudit, and it was about chiefdoms, and actually it was almost kind of religious. There was a certain day that was not marked by a certain
John, are you going to take us through the narrative?
No, I want to inform our listeners. If there was a battle, I am telling you.
I'm going to give you an opportunity to battle.
If there was a battle in Tororo between Bateso and Japadola, and one group wins the other, you can't come on a national. You can't come. No, my friend. You read it. If you are just reading on your tablets there, know that some of us have read this history long before. Now, on the interference, we cannot rule it out, because when you saw a full-fledged NATO-backed war against the Colonel Gaddafi, just recently, in 2010-2011, you can't rule out the fact that some people can use underhand means to oust the leaders that maybe are not collaborative enough with them. So I don't think it is logical enough to say that the interference is not there. But if the interference from the West makes us have very bad decisions in selecting our leaders, then it is our problem. How come this interference is not so common elsewhere? How come we have seen countries where coups have not happened, for instance? Is the West not interested there? How here we have our neighbor here in Kenya, for instance. For all the time we know, even with the very ethnic elections, with the 1988 Mlolongo elections of lining up, they had so many issues with the tight grip on power by Daniel Arap Moi. At least we didn't see.
No, here in Uganda. Why are you going to Kenya? Here,
I am coming.
There is a huge contestation here. Why isn't the US or Israel very interested in funding NUP to create a coup?
No problem. The NUP is a very good political party. I thank them, because for them, they know their mandate. They know that when elections end, you must organize for another election, because that is what constitutionalism provides. That the moment you lose, you go and create structures and you kunga people. So for us, we have no problem. We have no problem with new people. Now, for me, the ultimate question here is
conclusively, really.
Yes, if we go the election way, and then I lose, and then I go to courts, and then I lose from the courts, should I then say that I am taking over government through an uprising or whichever form? If the answer is yes, then we should brace ourselves for more coups, more unconstitutional removal of government, because I will see. Do you know what happened to Egypt after the removal of Hossein Mubarak? Just briefly, those who came were removed the same way, because you are teaching people that if you want to come to power, the shortcut is here.
But General Museveni taught Ugandans in 1981.
Very good, but you see, General Museveni, the difference, the guerrilla war that he waged, first of all, was a people's war. Why? Because let me tell you, you cannot say. Let me tell you, we cannot come here.
But John, you cannot
say that 27 people. Wait a moment. You cannot say that 27 people can run an army with field artillery, with motorized infantry, with air force, and you defeat it without the people. It just can't be. It just can't happen. Okay, if it is just that simple. But the people, no problem. The people here who hate Museveni are close to 4 million. He removed the bad government with only 27. You mobilize.
No, he did not. No, you see, John, when we are educating the listeners, it's important that we give them credible information.
Which one?
President Museveni did not remove the government with 27 men. That is not the truth.
But now, let me ask you. If you
were in fact 45 with only 27 with guns, it does not even mean that it was started by.
If I ask you,
but that's not important, though.
People's war, it's an Ankore war.
If I start my guerrilla war at Kabamba on the 6th of February with 27 guns, 41 men, and I get more arms, go to Ruwero from Kabamba, around 186 kilometers far apart, and then start recruiting. What have I started with? I have started with these numbers. I am only saying that the people who say that President Museveni is a bad president are in millions.
Yes.
If they think it is very simple,
why don't they
why
mobilize?
it is as simple as that. We have 10 national forests. We have 10 national parks. Let them go there. No problem. We have Queen Elizabeth here. Let them go there. I wish them good luck.
Let me allow. Please let me allow counsel to make a rebuttal.
See, I want you to read a list of coups and coup attempts on Wikipedia. And I want you to scroll down until 1916.
We may not have a lot of time.
Read, no. 1916. The person who was removed was the king of Ethiopia. A king. 1916.
No. It's okay. You can see it. We're on television.
Yeah, fine.
Yes. Ethiopia, while touring the city of Harar, Yasu was deposed by a carnival of aristocrats in favor of an aunt. The state of forces loyal to him were defeated by Segale. Yes.
Who was Yasu?
The battle of Segale. Segale is a
Who was Yasu?
Okay. Have a seat, sir. Have a seat, sir. Have a seat, sir. Have a seat, sir.
You see.
There was an emperor then.
Let me allow Peter Mpaka. No, I've seen. He may not have the time.
Read.
For me, what is very important is to inform our listeners.
Okay, I'm going to break it.
Yes. What is very important is to inform our listeners that under President Museveni, we do not have elections. We do not have proper systems of government. Now, if you want me to go to why we participate, that's a different debate. That is a different debate. What we have is war. What we have is tear gas. What we have is assassinations. So for John to be here and impunitiously tell us, you go and mobilize, you go to win impenetrable national park, that is wrong in the first place. For me, what I want to tell Ugandans, even here I am organizing and mobilizing Ugandans to arise and we cause change in this country.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you so much. It is becoming quite hot.
Yes.
I want to actually referring back to what you asked us earlier. Why is it that there are allegations that we could be having external, let's say, forces coming in from other countries? The truth of the matter is, however much colonialism went, but we remained with neo-colonialism. And on top of that, we still have the Cold War politics coming in, where we also see the elements of communism and socialism also coming on board. So everyone wants to belong somewhere. I want to give an example. We have seen these uprisings even coming up. But you find, even when people say that they are just local people uprising coming up, but they are armed. And you ask yourselves, actually ask yourself, where do they get forces? Where do they get, let's say, military equipment? If they are even rebels, if it is a militia group in Congo, in the forest, and you find they have tanks, they have guns, they have not actually broken into, let's say, a military hardware, and you ask yourself, where are they getting equipment?
Okay.
So it means that we could be having external forces coming in, but it also comes on a completely disgruntled community, and people start maybe arising, and then others come and join the struggle.
Thank you, Emma. Let me go with the parting shots. Cancel with your parting shot.
Of course, I hope you have read.
Yes, I have.
You have read.
Yes, I have. Yes. Your parting shot, really. Let's not derail.
I want to emphatically state that President Museveni should learn from the interim president of Mali, His Excellency Ibrahim Traore,
of Burkina Faso.
Burkina Faso,
yes.
Sorry. And of course, remember, Burkina Faso is called the land of upright men.
Yes.
The land of incorruptible people. Incorruptible. And I want Museveni to learn that this habit of going to beg for food, when we have food here, I think it is high time it stopped. Okay?
It was actually President Museveni who was telling countries who were surprised that other countries are begging Russia for food when they can do it with wheat and eat cassava.
So what are they going to do?
He had perhaps gone to mobilize for other issues.
Have you ever wondered why Putin doesn't come to Africa, but 16 or 20 heads of state go to Russia? So I think people like Museveni and Kagame are the reason why Africa is still weak, and it is still weak. And it is time that we, people who love peace, must remove them. One man said that the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good people to do nothing. And we are good people in Uganda, and I encourage us to rise up and do something good, and that something good is to prevent the incoming monarchy under General Muhoozi Kainerugaba.
Okay, Council Bwenje, our very own Deborah Kashima here says, go and read a book called The Confessions of an Economic Hitman by John Perkins. You read it?
I've read it.
You've read it. Okay, that's his message for you. Let me go to, in a second, really a parting shot. In a second.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I think...
in a second, really, our time is fast spent.
It is very fine. Is it that we are giving out our conclusive...
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm so much happy to be part of this show, but my take home is that really we need to think about beyond fighting and struggles, because they leave the countries in shambles. At the end of the day, we have seen the economic setbacks due to these coups happening, the military attacks, and it is a very big threat to the socio-economic transformation of our countries as Africa. Okay. It's unfortunate that actually Africa is largely blessed by a lot of resources, minerals, let it be those underground, on water and on land. But it's unfortunate we are the beggars of the day when it comes to what we want as.
Oh, okay.
As a
thank you, John. Our time is very fast spent.
Very fine, thank you.
Okay, thank you, John. To the now parting shot.
Thank you so much. I think if we go the democratic way, we should abide by the principles. You shouldn't be.
I think that's a message to Museveni.
Yeah, we shouldn't be like. Long time ago, my local LOC1 football team, when we lose, we say no. We either extend the minutes or we cancel this and start again. This is the Wenje thing. And it's also for our listeners. For our listeners, it is also not true that the first Queen Africa was in DRC in 1960, because the first one was the removal of President Tubman in Liberia in 1955. I think
independent Africa.
In independent Africa,
some countries here got independence in 1952, my friend. So I think people, yes, it's a parting shot. People who come here next time, tell them to research enough. They should not come here with half-baked information and they keep wiggling around. Good morning, all our listeners.
Yes, Peter Parker, your parting shot.
In the most recent times, we had a few assassinations around. And for me, I am so much interested in looking for local solutions to our local problems. I heard of the United Tired Men in Uniform, and I would really want to call upon people who are tired. Let us arise and change the destiny
United
of our
one?
country.
You that one?
The United
we shall deal with them.
Tired Men in Uniform. I would want to call on all Ugandans listening. We need change in our country. We need to take charge and control the destiny of Uganda.
We shall also change you.
Okay.
Using the very
I want to appreciate all of you that have been a part of the show. And my parting shot, my punchline this week. As the kids are getting to home from school, please take responsibility as parents. Recently, I saw a story of a young child that picked up a canister of tear gas, exploded in the child's hands, and the child now lost hand. So as parents, let's look out for our children to make sure that our children are protected during this holiday and they preserve life. My name is Wesley Gibanyaji. Thank you for those that have made contributions on our social media handles. Thank you for those that have taken time to call in, and thank you Council Bwenje did it. Thank you Peter Mpaka, thank you John Turinawe, and thank you Fokshaba Emmanuel. And thank you for all the listeners that have been a part of this. Thank you, Derek Ashimwe, and all the callers. Let's meet next Saturday on the Big City. We have news at the top of the hour, the sports roundup, and definitely Bueno is on tomorrow. 3 p.m. is the time, the finale, and we'll be able to cut the boys. My name is Wesley Banyaji. Blessed weekend.
The views expressed on this program are not necessarily the views of this radio station or its management.
This radio is regulated by Uganda Communications Commission, UCC.